presented by Crown Royal. My name is Drew Dougherty, and this is Deepi Sidhu with me, and we're here to answer your questions. So send them in, whether you're checking us out on YouTube, Facebook, MySpace, Friendster, doesn't matter. Deepi, how are you doing today? What's going on? Anything happening in your
Nothing. It's a totally normal week around the stadium. It's week 5. Nothing to see here. No, it's a crazy week. It's an unpredictably crazy week. This is why we do what we do, because there's never a dull day in the NFL. And of course, this week, will be the first week with interim head coach Romeo Crennel at the helm. And the Texans haven't even played a divisional opponent yet. This is the first week we're actually playing someone in the division, that is weird in itself. So hosting the Jaguars at home, looking to get things on track, and the Texans, of course, looking for their first win. But I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions in this Water Break Wednesday.
Yeah, we are. And two things. We want to hear where you're sending your questions in from, because we know you're from all over the world, many of you, asking these questions. But the second thing is this. We're as curious as you are as who this next head coach is going to be. Romeo Crennel is the interim head coach. But we got to let you know this. As employees of the Houston Texans, we can't comment on coaches who are coaching for another team right now. That's technically a little bit of tampering. So if you ask about X from X team, we're just going to have to beg off, and we can't answer. And I'm sorry about that. I know that probably is making a lot of you log off, and that's not good. We just can't do that. We want to know too. We're as curious as anybody, but we just can't speculate on that because we're not allowed to. So,
and also it's been 2 days, so nothing's happening on that front in the building right now because other coaches for other teams are preparing for games.
Yeah.
So there's that. I mean, it's pretty early in the season, but we'll answer your general questions about it, and we'll answer your questions about the Texans and what they plan to do for the rest of this year with the coaches they do have on staff. And, we'll try to answer your questions the best we can.
All right, Justin on YouTube has this. What's the biggest change we can expect from the Texans? Well, let's talk about just what's in front of the Texans this week. They've got the Jaguars coming to town. Romeo is in charge of things. We heard from Romeo earlier today. He said, we're going to be very, very simple and point out what has been working with run defense, with other things that have worked, the times they've worked so far this season, and we want to replicate that and do that over and over and over again. Let's not see what we've done wrong. Let's acknowledge it, but let's focus on repeating what we've done well, the Texans. And that's going to be fun to see, on defense. It's also going to be interesting to see what Tim Kelly, the offensive coordinator, and Deshaun Watson do, because they're going to be the two heads, two brains that formulate the game plan the most and execute it the most in game. So will Tim Kelly kind of shake things up a bit? And will we see some different stuff out of that Texans offense? Deepi, there's so many endless possibilities to a great question from Justin on YouTube.
Yeah, and Romeo Crennel this morning talked about it. He said it's still, the buck pretty much stops with him. The play calling is going to go through him. The identity of the team now moving forward will have to go through him because he's the head coach. He hasn't done it for a while, but he has so much experience. I think he's in year 38 in the NFL, and he's won 5 Super Bowls.
Yeah,
he has been the defensive coordinator for the Texans in some of their most successful seasons as a defense as a whole. So Romeo brings a wealth of experience. He knows what it's going to take to become the head coach and to assume all those responsibilities. I thought it was really interesting that he was approached as being the interim head coach. And one of the main reasons why he decided to take on the responsibility is because he knows these players so well. And, he really wanted for their sake to help them, turn things around and to sort of guide them through the rest of the season. So I am curious too, how different this offense, how different this defense is going to look. But he says that he's seen encouragement from this defense, especially the run defense, which I'm sure we may get some questions on. The Texans have really struggled there. And he said, I've seen where they do things right, and we just basically need to go back and do those things. We're going to show them the film and, like you said, show them what they've done right and try to replicate that. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they got to get Deshaun Watson and the offense moving. So, hopefully they can get things turned around on Sunday against these Jags.
All right. Thank you to Antonio in San Antonio for watching. Stephanie in College Station. And we got a question now from Asher. What are the plans moving forward with a general manager? Well, the highest ranking decision maker in the organization right now is clearly, obviously, Cal McNair. He made the decision to part ways with Bill O'Brien, but the guy doing the decision making as far as personnel, as far as evaluating talent and all that, That's still Jack Easterby. He's the executive vice president of football operations. So he's in charge right now. And that's who is, I suppose, the decision maker as far as football personnel goes at the moment, right, Deepi?
Well, they've got a scouting department as well. So, I don't think it will be just Easterby's input. It'll be Matt Bazergan, James Lipford. They've got a very talented scouting department that's going to continue to work here and do their jobs throughout the rest of the season. So they'll get a lot of input there. I think it's an interesting question because also this year with free agents and tryouts, things are very complicated. The NFL is coming down very hard on how many guys you can bring in for tryouts every single week because they're so worried about COVID. So it's not an easy process to just bring in guys for tryouts either. So I think if a team is really interested in a player or a position group, they'll bring them in, but it's not going to be like in years past where we just saw like an influx of guys at certain positions come in every week and you just sort of try them out and keep them in mind if someone jumps out at you later in the season or if you need somebody to replace an injured player.
All right, Jack from the Chicagoland has this. Do you think Will Fuller can blossom into a star this season? Will Fuller's playing really well, and he has had 100-yard receiving in 2 of the 4 games this year. It's just been swallowed up by 4 losses. It's tough to see such. It's not tough for us to see it because we do see it, but it's tough to, get the notoriety, I think, when your team's not doing so well. But yeah, Will Fuller has always been talked about for the last 2 or 3 seasons as having the potential and the ability to be a number one receiver. When he's on the field, he's been such a guy, but it's just a matter of durability. And so far, so good in that regard. Will Fuller's played really well and he's played healthy. He's been healthy. There was a little bit of a scare last week because he missed a practice, but he played last game and played very, very well, Deepi.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Drew. I mean, if the Texans had won 2 of those 4 games, we would be talking about Will Fuller and his performance. I mean, to put up 100 yards receiving, he's been consistent. He's, been healthy, knock on wood. So that's been the biggest critique of Will Fuller, not really his play or his route running or anything like that. We know how tremendous of an asset he is to the Texans offense when he's out there and he's healthy. I think if the Texans get a win, obviously it's going to be because Will Fuller's in the game and he's doing some good things for this offense. But I think he's already proven himself as a number one. He, when you ask him, doesn't consider himself the number one. He says, we've got a number of wide receivers and we all come in and do our own thing. And that's just very much, I think, who Fuller really is as a person. He just doesn't like the attention or the notoriety. He's a very quiet guy. He's soft-spoken, but, for all intents and purposes, he is the number one guy. He's getting the targets and he just, to see him out there and doing his thing, if the Texans were winning, we'd be talking a lot more about him. That's for sure.
Yeah. Seamus has a good one. Any update on Garyon Conley, the cornerback, moving off of IR? It doesn't sound like he's coming off anytime soon. The next to last press conference that Bill O'Brien had, it's on Monday morning, he was asked about Conley, and he said he's still a ways off. So definitely not going to be this week. And I don't know that it's next week either, based on what we were hearing from O'Brien. He did say Kahale Waring, the tight end, was a little bit closer than Conley. So, yeah, it's probably going to be a while for Conley. And Jordan Akins, we just got the report, he was not out at practice today, so he remains in the concussion protocol. Took a nasty hit from Harrison Smith the other day. And for the record, I don't think Harrison Smith was playing dirty. I just think it was a bang-bang play.
He was ejected after that
hit.
They
kicked him out. He's a great player. And, Mike Zimmer, understandably so, was really mad about that. But I don't think that was a dirty hit. But letter of the law, he got bounced from the game. But Garyon Conley's going to be a while, DP.
Yeah, and I mean, these are according to new NFL rules. I know I tweeted about it, and some people were asking, what are those new rules again? Well, this year under the COVID guidelines, you get guys that when they go on IR, they don't have to miss like 6 or 8 weeks. They can come back after missing just 3 games. So that's where Garyon Conley is right now. He's missed his 3 games. He's eligible to come back at any point now. So whenever they feel he's healthy, they can bring him back, and you can bring back an unlimited number of guys from IR this year. So that's why you see a lot of guys going on IR throughout the league, because it frees up a roster spot to bring in somebody else that can play that position. But, I feel like Garyon Conley could come back at some point this season, Drew, because we saw him battling some things in camp, and, he just wasn't quite 100%. So he was out there for camp. I don't think anything serious happened, like that he would be out for the season. We would have heard about it. I think he just went on IR. He just wasn't ready to play yet. So stay tuned. He could come back at some point.
Jason has this one. What's your take on Bill O'Brien, quote, losing the locker room? I mean, it doesn't really matter anymore. He's gone, but he was 0-4. He said himself, it just wasn't good enough, and if he had made the moves he'd made and he'd had the time here, which was 6-7 years, and he hadn't won big. He hadn't won a Super Bowl. And to have that time and to have that freedom, you got to have the big wins to back it up. And they just weren't there. So, as far as losing the locker room, nothing would surprise me, but ultimately it was about performance on the field. And when your team is 0-4 with the expectations you have this year, with the talent you have at quarterback this year, and talent around him as well for the rest of the team, based off what you did in the playoffs and getting the playoffs last year, it was just too much. And Cal McNair made the choice to move on, Deepi.
Yeah, and I think it was also just, I don't know about the locker room either, because I'm not in the locker room this year. We're not in the locker room, so we don't know. But it was just trending in the wrong direction. So you start off 0-4, and it didn't look like things were getting better. Obviously, the first 3 games were really tough. I think it's tough for any team to win out with a schedule like the one the Texans had the first 3 weeks. But they certainly had hoped to come out and be more competitive in week 4 at home against a Minnesota team that was winless and giving up a lot of points and a lot of yards. And I think, with Bill O'Brien taking over the play calling, they'd hoped that would spark the team or things would change. And they didn't. And the Texans came out looking flat in the first half. They looked better in the second half, but ultimately it wasn't enough. They weren't moving in the right direction. And I think Cal McNair thought, it's only week 4. We still have, like Drew said, we have a lot of talent on this team, and it's not too late to win some games and still make a push. So I think it was a lot of the timing of it and just seeing which way things were trending. What had a lot to do with that decision and why it was made now.
Yeah. Christian wants to know, are there any free agents that the Texans should be looking at? Well, I mean, if you're a free agent at this time of the year, it's not like there's a Randy Moss just kind of sitting around, or there's a Deion Sanders just hanging out there. But with that in mind, I do think there are some guys, some of the bigger names like Eric Reed, safety, brother of Justin Reed. He's somebody that the Texans might consider, I suppose. Jabal Sheard is a pass rusher. Texans have familiarity with him, playing against him with the Colts for all those years. He's still out there on the street. Those are 2 names I think you could see that the Texans take a look at. Sheard had a workout earlier this week with the Jaguars. So those are a couple names you might consider. But yeah, the Texans scouting department, personnel department is always keeping tabs on anybody that they think they can upgrade the roster with in season, out of season. And they're definitely doing their due diligence and working guys out as they can and as they see fit, Deepi.
Yeah, I think the safety position is an intriguing one, because the Texans did have a number of workouts scheduled last week, but then they had to get canceled because of COVID and the Vikings and the Titans, and they weren't really sure what was going to happen with the week. And we never really heard about any of those getting rescheduled. So, I would keep an eye on it. That the Texans are lucky in the sense that they haven't had any major injuries to any position group where they have to replace someone right away. So I think they'll add as they see fit, but if they can get things turned around on Sunday, I think that'll give them a new perspective on what positions they need to upgrade and what was just getting guys to play at the highest level they can play at.
Mm-hmm. Ruben has this. Is there a sense of relief from the players now that O'Brien has been fired? I think there's definitely going to be a personality change on the whole with Romeo Crennel versus O'Brien. There's just really
different.
No other way around it. I mean, Romeo is a very calm guy. He's a very laid back guy. He has got skins on the wall to the umpteenth degree. He has seen it all. He's coached some of the greats in the game. Lawrence Taylor, he's seen, just about everything you could see as a coach in this league. So yeah, there is a different mentality, I'm sure, moving forward with Romeo as opposed to Bill O'Brien. There's no doubt about that. Sense of relief, perhaps. I'm not going to be the one to speak for the players to say that, but yes, that could be a possibility, Ruben.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to hear from the players today. J.J. Watt, Deshaun Watson will be at the podium, and then we'll have players throughout the week. So I think it's a better question for the players to see how they feel about it. But I think that whenever you make a major change like that in the middle of losing, it can provide a spark. It feels like something different is being done, because we heard J.J. after Sunday's loss. He said, I don't know what needs to be done differently. So, when you sort of keep doing the same thing, get the same results, it is frustrating ultimately. Yeah. So to see a change at the highest position of head coach, hopefully it helps. And Romeo Crennel's been here the entire time Bill O'Brien's been here in various roles. So he knows this team. It's not like they have to start all over again or come up with a brand new scheme overnight. They just got to make some tweaks and changes and see if that gets them going on the right track.
All right, we're going to wrap things up with a kind of random question, but it's a good question. It's from Halston, and Halston wants to know, do you think Charlie Heck will play this week? If I had to guess, I'd say no, because he hasn't been active at all this season, and I think the Texans have their, I don't want to say their starting lineup set, because we've seen Sunil Kelamete play at left guard quite a bit for Max Sharping, but I don't think you're going to see Heck crack into the lineup this week. He's got to get active first, and he hasn't been active yet. But the Texans are bringing him along, developing him, and I think it'll be a little while before we see Charlie Heck get some action.
Yeah, maybe like a redshirt year for Charlie Heck if he doesn't get active, where he sort of learns behind Titus and Laramie. And I mean, personally, if Charlie Heck comes into the game, it's because one of your starters is injured. So, I don't want to see that happen just yet. I don't want to see that happen this year. You never want to see your starters go down, especially on the O-line and the guys that are protecting Deshaun Watson. But, I think his role is mostly going to be a swing tackle. So I would only expect to see him in that case. And, he is a rookie, so he's got a lot to learn. But, never say never. We definitely cannot predict if we learned anything.
But it's a good question, Halston, and we thank you for sending that in. And we thank all of you for watching today. We thank all of you for sending in questions. If we didn't get to yours, very, very sorry. You can send me one at deardrew@HoustonTexans.com, and I'll do my best to answer it. And, these are different times for the Texans. It's going to be a fascinating ride. The final 12 games of this season, Texans are not out of it. Texans have a personality change, you think, coming. And I can't wait to see what Deshaun Watson and Tim Kelly have cooked up for the rest of the year. And it all starts on Sunday right here at NRG Stadium. And we don't normally say this, but there's tickets available, Deepi. So come on out to the game. My wife and my boy had a fun time on Sunday. And I know,
he did?
Oh, yeah, he loved it.
It's Kids Day. So bring your kids out. You can go to Ticketmaster, get the tickets, and download the mobile app. Drew and I will be doing the pregame show from right there inside NRG Stadium. So Texans Unlimited presented by Verizon. So get the mobile app and watch us on Facebook, YouTube, HoustonTexans.com. Shameless plug.
If you see a little blonde kid like this tall, looks like he's 5 years old, doing the air guitar, that's my son, Oliver. And yes, he's doing the air guitar. He doesn't have some sort of condition. Everything's okay.
Is he mimicking Deshaun's touchdown celebration? So,
He does that whenever he's happy now. He's been doing that since last January when he saw the Buffalo Bills playoff.
It's a good celebration.
It is.
Hopefully we see lots of them on Sunday.
I'm all for that. Yeah, I'd love to see because that means you're doing something great. Well, Deepi, good stuff as always from you. Great stuff as always from Amanda Caffey and from Tyler Marcotte, putting this whole thing together. Andrew Temperley as well. You guys are the best in the biz, and we love working with you. And we love you, Texans fans. We love hearing from you. Send us questions, and we'll be back again next week around this time for another Water Break Wednesday presented by Crown Royal. So long, and go Texans.